Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. A lot to talk about again this week. Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate previews are in full swing. Some of those cards are impacting the prices of existing cards on the secondary market. You're going to see that throughout the video. And remember, Streets of New Capenna didn't come out all that long ago. Players are still trying to build new Commander decks around these new cards, and that's having a big impact on prices. And there's a lot of other things happening out there too. Quickly, before we dig into all of it though, just a fast reminder, if you go to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use the Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pre-order Commander Legends products there. They have everything you see on the screen as well as the Commander decks. Plus, they have a whole lot of other things on their website. Remember, if your order's over $100 or consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, whenever you use that Heroes promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated, so thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. We'll begin with the Standard Legal Spotlight. This is where we highlight the Standard Legal cards that are moving the most this week. Again, today our threshold is going to be $2, so we're not going to talk about any cards unless they're moving at least $2 up or down. And we do have some cards going down in the standard section this week first, so let's take a look. First is Bootlegger Stash, down 246 to 2147. This is finding its price point as packs continue to be opened, but it is a very popular Commander card already. This is found in Ginny Faye Jetmir second decks and many other builds old and new. Next is Ob Nixilis the Adversary, down 346 to $25. And here is another card that is continuing to find its price point as packs are opened, but it is already seeing play in a lot of formats. Standard, this is in Jund Midrange, Rakdos Artifacts, and more. Pioneer, it's in Rakdos Sacrifice. Jund Midrange there too. In Modern, it's in Rakdos Sacrifice as well. Sometimes Rakdos Midrange. Legacy, it's in Grixis Tempo. And it is getting Commander play too in Zeatora the Incinerator and a number of other builds old and new. Haunted Ridge, but this is the copy from Innistrad Double Feature. A lot of these Double Feature cards are finally settling into their price points. And this one is still dropping, as you can see. It's down 358 this week to 1903. Despite the drop for this particular copy, this is a fantastic mana-based card in a lot of formats. Standard, it's in Jund Midrange, Rakdos Artifacts, and more. Pioneer, it's in Rakdos Midrange, Rakdos Sacrifice, and more there. This is also a big mana-based card in Commander 2, and it is getting additional play in a number of builds around new cards. Zeatora, Agnes the Dragon's Lash, Lord Xander the Collector, Evelyn the Covetous. It's also a good upgrade to some new Commander decks, Maestro's Massacre, Riveteer's Rampage, and many players are putting this in new Commander builds around some cards from those decks. And Hela the Painter, Henzi Toolbox Tori, and the Beamtown Bullies, for example. Next is the Meat Hook Massacre from Innistrad Midnight Hunt, down 362 this week to 64.88. This is retracting after some recent increases, but it is still a highly played standard card. It's in Orzhov Control, Rakdos Artifacts, and much more there. In Pioneer, it's in Jund Sacrifice and Mono Black Devotion. It also gets a good amount of Commander play too. You'll see this one in Corval Fakris King decks, and those builds are more popular right now due to all the support the Streets of New Capenna gave to that strategy. And this also has seen increased Commander play in some Zeatora decks too. Last card moving down in this section is another double feature card finding its price. It is Stormcarved Coast. It goes down 656 this week to 1736. And much like Haunted Ridge, this is in a lot of places. In Standard, you'll see this in Jeskai and Izzet Control. Grixis Midrange, sometimes Izzet Midrange as well, and more. Pioneer, this is in a couple popular decks there. Izzet Phoenix, Izzet Control, also an Izzet Thing in the Ice. It is a good Commander mana-based card too, as you could imagine. I have seen some adding this to Maestro's Massacre, or putting it in fresh builds around in Hello. Also, this is found in Commander builds around other new cards like Lord Xander and Evelyn. First card moving up is Unlicensed Hearse. This is up 264 this week to 499. And this is showing up in a number of formats as a way to keep graveyards under control and give you board presence at the same time. In Pioneer, this is in Grixis Vampires, Jund Midrange, and more. In Modern, it's in Mono White Stoneblade, Legacy Goblins, and Grixis Tempo. This is also getting some Commander play too in Shorikai Genesis Engine builds and other decks, both old and new again. Last card in this section is another highly played one. This is Ledger Shredder, up 463 this week to 1786. This is a rare, moving up in value slightly after the set came out. That does say something. In Pioneer, this is an Esper Greasefang. Aspiring Spike was playing 4 copies of this in Pioneer Is It Phoenix. I've seen a lot of people doing that recently in MTGO. Also, Aspiring Spike was using 4 copies of this in a Modern Ledger Shredder Shadow deck too. Another deck I have seen circulating and doing pretty well. In Legacy, you'll see this in Mono Blue Delver builds. Plus, players are trying this out in other decks in various formats, including Standard and Vintage. We'll have to see if it finds a stable home in those formats. Additionally, it is turning out to be a popular commander card in a lot of different builds, old and new. Some of the new ones include Rafine Scheming Seer, Falcospara Pact Weaver, Huiza Augur of Agonies, Toulouse Clever Constructor, and Lord Xander. Additionally, many are picking this up to upgrade the Obscura Operation Commander deck, and others are putting it in builds from scratch around some cards from there, like Kamiz Obscura Oculus and Tivit Seller of Secrets. Time for the Pioneer Legal Spotlight. As you know, Pioneer has been a hot format since if you want to get to the Pro Tour this season, you're going to have to go through a regional championship. A lot of people are trying to solve the format. A lot of people are trying to scramble and build decks. Although finally, we're starting to see these cards cool down a little bit as players are solidifying their decks. So let's see what's happening. Kalidas Trader of Geth is down 244 this week to 27.96. This is retracting after some recent increases due to the renewed interest in Pioneer. In that format, you see this in Rakdos Midrange, Mono Black Aggro, Grixis and Orzhov Vampires, as well as Grixis Midrange. This is getting some additional commander play too in some new builds around Evelyn and Rafine. Next is Korvold, Fake Curse King. This is the foil copy that came in the Savage Hunger Brawl decks. It's down 260 this week to 28.60. Last week we saw a couple other copies of this card go down in price. This week we see this one following. So what happened here? Basically, this card got super hot because of Streets of New Capenna. And now because it spiked to a certain level, players are just deciding, you know what, I got some extra copies, maybe I'll put them out there to trade or sell. Plus, stores may have had a lot of these in inventory. When they saw the price spike, they decided it's time to post them online, and these extra copies came into the marketplace. Nothing unusual here. It is also worth noting that this was part of the list for Keldheim, then it returned for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and stayed through Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It was removed, though, for New Capenna. In Pioneer, this is in Jund's Sacrifice, but again, I do think Commander is the reason this card got so hot recently. This has been a popular commander, and it's also part of the 99 of many builds. The reason New Capenna pushed this so much in the format is because it had a lot of support for treasure tokens. It had blitz creatures that you sacrificed if you paid the blitz cost. It had the casualty mechanic that allowed you to sacrifice a creature to copy a spell. There were cards that just played well with this directly, like Riveteer's Ascendancy, for example. The list goes on and on. Now, not only were there a number of cards making the Korvold builds better in the commander format, but there were also new commanders that would like this card in their 99. Things like Ziatora, Agnes, and Vazi Keen Negotiator. Plus, I have seen some picking this up as an upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage, and some are putting in fresh builds around Henzi Toolbox Tori from there. Beyond that, it was mentioned in a recent episode of the Command Zone podcast as a possible upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage that could have brought some more attention to it as well. Voice of Resurgence, the copy for Modern Masters 2017, is down 287 this week to 1054. Another card retracting after some recent increases that occurred when Pioneer became hot. In Pioneer, this is in Naya Winota and 5 Color Fires of Invention. This has also seen some increased commander play around some new Capenna cards too, like Jetmir Nexus of Revels and Rocco Cabaretti Caterer. Rin and Siri Inseparable. This is the Buy a Box foil copy. It goes down 294 this week to 26.96. And this is another card retracting again after some recent spikes. This was hot because of the cat and dog support that came in New Capenna. It is a popular commander, also part of the 99 of some new builds, things like Ginny Faye and to a lesser degree Jetmir. Again, this is just a situation where more copies have entered the marketplace due to a pretty strong spike. Last card moving down in this section is Twilight Prophet. This is the copy from the list. It goes down 369 this week to 1731. This was added to the list with Crimson Vow, but it is still there for New Capenna. And that's the key when it comes to this price. Remember, there are less cards in the list now starting with New Capenna. So even though the Magic version of the Stranger Things cards are heavily weighted in the set booster packs, the other cards from the list are also being pushed out into the market at a higher rate than before. This is reflected in the price you see on the screen. Now when it comes to gameplay, this is seeing some increased commander play in some Evelyn builds. Next we have Blood Crypt, the original one from Dissension. It's up $2 to $42.29. And this was part of the list for Crimson Vow and Neon Dynasty. It was removed, though, for New Capenna. Shocklands are getting another reprint in Unfinity, but many players are still scrambling to build those Pioneer decks, and they need some Shocklands. If you do need to buy Shocklands now prior to the reprint, maybe it's not a bad idea to buy the original ones because they will hold their value the best, at least, when the reprinting happens. No doubt, though, they'll still go down some as well. When it comes to gameplay, this is a shockland, so it shows up in a lot of decks and a lot of formats. Pioneer, it's in Rakdos Midrange, Niv to Light, and more. Modern, it's in Grixis Death's Shadow, Jund, and much more there. It is a big mana-based card for Commander 2. You'll see this in Korvold decks, and it is a nice addition to a lot of builds around new cards. Ziatora, Lord Xander, Agnes, plus I have seen some adding this to Riveteer's Rampage and Maestro's Massacre. Others are putting it in fresh builds around cards from those decks like Anhelo, Henzi, and the Beamtown Bullies. And the last card in this section is Maze's End. It goes up 233 this week to 1098. Currently, this does see some Commander playing Child of Alara land builds, for example, but Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate is really what's pushing this. Due to the previews and also some leaks that happen, we know that gates are coming back and they are getting support in the set. Now, I'm not going to talk about leaks today, but here's an example of one of the cards that was previewed. Baldur's Gate. There's also an uncommon gate that allows gates you control to enter the battlefield untapped. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot more Commander Gate decks in the not-too-distant future. And that brings us to the Modern Legal Spotlight, and again, we have some cards going down in value and some going up. First one on the way down is Gemstone Caverns, the original copy from Time Spiral. It's down $4.13 to $40.76. This was in the list from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms through Neon Dynasty, removed for New Capenna, that's worth noting. A couple weeks ago, we saw this spike pretty aggressively. Now for a second week in a row, it is retracting. In Modern, we see this in Crushing Footfalls, Calibrated Blast, and more. It also gets a good amount of Commander play, and it is sometimes in Korvold decks there. Next, we have Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. Now, all the copies of this card are trending down to some degree this week. This one is moving the most. The Ultimate Master's copy down $4.18 to $74.99. This was in the list for Strixhaven and Modern Horizons 2. The reason it's moving down now, though, is because we know it's going to be reprinted in Double Masters 2022. When it comes to gameplay, though, in Modern, sometimes this is an Eldrazi Tron or 4-color Tamishi combo. Legacy, it's in Mono Green Cloudpost. This is also in various Commander builds, including Kozilek, the Great Distortion. Mikaeus, the Unhallowed, the copy from the list that was added with Midnight Hunt, still there, going into New Capenna. And because of that, it is down $4.52 to $25.12. Like I said, a lot more copies of this card are coming into the marketplace. It is another good upgrade, though, for Riveteer's Rampage, and also I have seen this in fresh builds around Henzi. Mystic Gate. This is the Shadowmoor copy, down $4.60 to $40.69, and this is also card retracting after some recent increases. In Modern, this is in Azorius, Jeskai, Esper, and Bant control builds. It's also in a variety of Commander decks. I have seen some players picking this up to upgrade Obscura Operation, or put it in new builds around cards from there like Kamiz or Tivit. Also, it's in some new Rafine builds, too. Last card moving down in value is Renin 6, the copy from Modern Horizons, down $6.64 this week to $92.77. This was in the list for Zendikar Rising and Kaldheim. But again, the reason this is losing value the way it is because we know it's getting reprinted in Double Masters 2022. Sees a lot of play, though. In Modern, this is in Elementals, 4-color Blink, and much more. You see this in some Commander builds as well. Occasionally, one of those is Korvold. And I have seen some people getting this as an upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage, and also some are putting it in new Commander builds around a card from there, the Beamtown Bullies. First card moving up in this section is Snapcaster Mage, but it is the copy from the list that was there from Midnight Hunt through Neon Dynasty, again removed for New Capenna. It goes up 207 to 4206. This is a classic card in Modern and sees a ton of play. Azorius, Jeskai, Esper Control, and more. Legacy, it's in Jeskai Control, sometimes Jeskai Stoneblade. Vintage, you'll see this in Paradoxical Outcome. This is getting more Commander play now, too. I do see this often in Anhelo builds, and it is a good upgrade to Maestro's Massacre. This is also in Commander builds around some other new cards, Rafine and Quiza, for example, and it did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week too, which again could have brought some attention to it. Hellcarver Demon up $2.98 this week to $15.97. Okay, so this card got hot recently since some players wanted to pick up a copy to play in Commander of the Beamtown Bullies decks, or in some cases just simply to upgrade the Riveteer's Rampage Commander deck if they're using the Bullies as their commander. Now, though, there is another reason for this card to move up in price, and that ties into Commander Legends previews again. Here's the card that's pushing it. John Irenicus Shattered One. So again, we have a legendary creature that allows you to give away your creatures to opponents and goad them. Very similar in many ways to the Beamtown Bullies. Doubling Season, the Battle Bond copy up 338 this week to 88.93. Okay, huge commander card in many decks, including Korvold and Rin and Siri. In fact, Doubling Season plays well with a lot of cards from the new Capenna set in general. For example, I've seen many putting this in commander builds around Ginny Fey, Jetmir, Jolene the Plunder Queen, Agnes. Another reason, though, this is moving again ties into Commander Legends previews. There's a lot of cards we've seen so far that create tokens or give counters or support their strategies. Let's take a whirlwind tour of some of them. Now, not all these cards are going to share color identity with Doubling Season. However, even the legendary creatures could show up in the 99 alongside Doubling Season in some builds out there. So let's take a look. First with the cards that give counters. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details with the cards I put on the screen. This is just a sampling of some of the previews we've seen already. If you do want to dig into these cards a little deeper, feel free to pause the video. But on your screen, you see 9 cards that have been previewed so far, not even all of them, that do support counter strategies. Plus, when it comes to the commander decks, 2 of them, Party Time and Draconic Descent, both have front-facing commanders that play with +1/+1 counters. Now here's 10 cards that are all monocolor that create tokens or support the token strategy in some way, shape, or form. And here's 7 more. First, you have multicolor cards as well as a couple artifacts. And finally, the Exit from Exile commander deck has a front-facing commander that creates tokens as well. And how's this for a segue? Parallel Lives is up 727 this week to 66.58. Obviously, a big reason for that is because of the token support coming from Commander Legends, which we just saw. Even if you ignore that, though, currently this is a huge commander card found in Korvold and Rin and Siri. This works well with a lot of cards from New Capenna, and it is in a number of new builds around cards from there, like Ginny Fey, Jetmir, Agnes, Jolene, and Ziatora. Guess what? Ashling Extinguisher is back, up 11.58 this week to $20.04. It is an Eventide rare, so I'm going to use my one per video. Remember, during this time in Magic, there was a recession in the game, less packs were cracked. So when people start paying attention to the rares that have yet to be reprinted, sometimes they do tend to get a little spiky like this one. So why are people paying attention to this? Well, it is seeing increased commander play as an upgrade to Obscura Operation when Kamiz is used as the commander. Also, it's in builds around that card from scratch too. This was mentioned as a good upgrade to Obscura Operation on the Command Zone podcast recently, which I think in this case did open a lot of players' eyes to this card. And the last card in this section is Blood Moon from the Dark. It is up 11.68 this week to $115. Now, this was added to the list with Crimson Vow, and it is still there going into New Capenna. Plus, this was recently reprinted in the Mischief Secret Lair. But this is moving up and not down. Why is that? Well, the original copy of this from the Dark has a life of its own, just independent of gameplay, independent of reprintings, because a lot of collectors want to get this in high grade. Recently, it lost some value. This week, though, it is climbing back up close to where it was for a lot of April. When it comes to gameplay, though, in Modern, this is in Murktide Regent, Gruul Midrange, and more. Legacy, it's in Blood Moon Aggro, sometimes Jeskai Control. Vintage, you'll see this in Izzet Control. And it's also in a number of commander builds, including Krenko Mob Boss. And that takes us to the Vintage Spotlight. This is where we talk about cards that see play in Legacy, Vintage, 93, 94, or cards that are just popular among collectors. Now, remember, in this section of the video, at least for some of the cards, the price you see on the screen is going to be a little more reminiscent of what you might see on a price tracking website. And that's because in some cases, we have cards here that don't see a lot of sales in any given week, which means we do have to rely a little bit harder on asking price than normal. Also, too, for some of the more iconic and older cards, the price you see on the screen might be somewhere in between the price of a high-grade raw and a high-grade graded copy. Although, if the price you're looking at doesn't match up with recent sales, I will point that out. First, we have Scrubland from Revised. The Unlimited copy is seeing some heavy market manipulation this week, along with a few other cards out there, so always be careful. But the Revised copy is up 302 to 375.50, not a huge percentage increase. Badlands from Revised, also not a huge percentage increase, but it is up 344 to 466.65. Rite of Flame, the copy from the list. It was only there for Cal time, so it is hard to find online in good condition. It goes up 348 this week to 1780. In Legacy, this is in the Epic Storm and the Epic Gamble, and it's in a number of commander builds too, including Korvold at times. Plateau from Revised, up $4 to $355.99. Island, not just anyone. The one you see on the screen from Battle Royale is up $625 this week to $13.90. So we've seen a number of lands from the set spike recently. I do think initially somebody maybe picked up a number of copies of a certain mountain to put in some decks. and that caused that card to spike. And now I do think you're seeing some copycat buyouts for some of these cards. Now, the others that spiked were moving back down pretty significantly this week. I'm pretty sure the same will happen eventually to this as it does get replaced in the marketplace. However, right now it is spiking because somebody picked up a lot of copies and the reasonable priced ones disappeared quickly, leaving only the more expensive ones in the marketplace, creating some artificial inflation. A lot of times, though, when we do see a basic land bought out like this, it tends to be a land that obviously is hard to find in good condition online, but also many times is a white border card because some players do prefer the white border basics when they fetch. Mana Crypt, a few copies to talk about. Mystery Booster up 205 to 183.73. The original book media promo is up 328 to 366, and the Double Masters copy is up 726 to 193.57. In Vintage, this is in 4-color Tinker, Paradoxical Outcome, and more. Also a huge commander card in many builds, again including Corvold. I've seen this in some builds around new cards too. Lord Xander, Rocco, Giada of Hope. Additionally, this is a good upgrade to the delayed Heads I Win, Tails You Lose Secret Lair commander deck. And this did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week too. Merchant Ship is up 11.15 this week to 119.62. Goblin King from Unlimited up 1606 to 135.56. Caracas, the original Legends copy, is up 1641 this week to 106.75. Underground Sea from Revised up 1761 to $900. Royal Assassin from Unlimited up 2245 to 188.99. Sword of the Ages up 2271 to 218.95. Mana Flare from Unlimited up 2348 to 97.47. As you can see, some Unlimited cards still jumping up. Tetsu Umezawa is up 3150 this week to 279. Lord of the Pit from Unlimited up 3609 to 109.85. Now this does seem like a pretty big jump, but I did look at recent sales and this does fall in line with a price point that's between high-grade raw and high-grade graded copies. Northern Paladin from Unlimited up $40.89 to $116.43. Okay, high-grade raw copies can get up to about $50. I haven't seen any high-grade graded copies sell for a while, but I could see one getting to this price point when it happens. Lifeblood, this is up $109.53 to $159.49. This one looks like a targeted reserve list buyout. Raw copies typically sell for about $50. Again, though, I have not seen a high-grade graded copy sell for a while, but I could see one hitting this price point. An 8.5 recently sold for $125. Force Field from Unlimited up $118.03 to $770.04. When it comes to true sales, this price might be a little low, believe it or not. High-grade raws can get to around this price point. High-grade graded copies can sell for about $1,500 or more. Guardian Beast, this is up $136.96 to $1,128.80. Again, though, this is about what I would expect to pay for a high-grade raw copy. Graded copies can go for more, but I haven't seen one sell for a while on high grade. Island of Wak Wak up $538.90 this week to $1,499.99. Is that for real? Well, this one is closer to the price of a high-grade graded copy. High-grade raws go for about $785, and I did see a high-grade graded copy sell recently for about $1,400. Last card in this section, Ancestral Recall from Unlimited. In theory, going up $1,379.77 to $7,000. Is this real? Well, it is hard to say. I haven't seen any high-grade copies sell for a while. When it comes to Power 9, it is hard to pin down value since there are not many for sale typically in any given week. Usually these ups and downs you see are tied into the asking price for the copies on the market at that time, and grades can vary, the amount of graded versus ungraded can vary. Basically, they're worth what someone's willing to pay at that moment. And that takes us to the Commander Spotlight. Now, everything in this section moving, at least in part because of Commander, but there could be other drivers as well. I'll mention those as we go through. In some cases, Commander might not even be the key driver. Replenish, this is up $2 to $127. Now, this has seen a little increased Commander play in some Quiza builds. Shabraz the Sky Shark, this is the one from the list. It was only there for Caltime, though. It goes up $207 to $794. This is getting increased Commander play in some Quiza decks, too, as well as some Rafine builds. Ruby Medallion, the one from Tempest, is up $207 to $38.99. This is also seeing more Commander play, this time in Jaxus the Troublemaker decks. Bubble Matrix up $227 this week to $13.74. This currently gets a little Commander play in some different builds, but it may be the start of a reserve list buyout. We've been seeing a lot of cheaper reserve list cards getting bought out recently. This is something to keep an eye on. Deflecting SWAT is up 250 to 5592. Very popular commander card in many builds, including Korvold, and also in some new builds around Zeatora, for example. I have seen this picked up many times as an upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage, and it's also in some fresh builds around some cards from there, like the Beamtown Bullies and Jolene. Atraxa Praetor's Voice, the copy from Commander Anthology Volume 2. This particular copy only comes in foil. It is up 252 this week to 3921. Remember, this is getting reprinted in the Showcase Streets of New Capenna's Secret Lair, but it is a very popular commander card, and as discussed, there seems to be a lot of counter support coming with Commander Legends. Also note that Atraxa has the horror creature type. It can't be an upgrade to the Commander Legends Mind Flayer's commander deck, which we're going to talk about shortly. That deck is Demure, but maybe there could be some cards in that deck that you might want in an Atraxa build. You'll see what I mean in just a few minutes. Armageddon, this Portal copy, a little dry online this week. It goes up 272 to 1691. It is in a variety of commander decks, including Kalia of the Vast. Earthcraft, this one is seeing increased commander play now in some Jinny Fey decks. It goes up 352 to 174.97. Temporal Manipulation, the Portal Second Age copy, a little dry online this week. It jumps up 377 to 57.75. This was in the list for Zendikar Rising through Modern Horizons 2. It is getting more commander play though now. I have seen some using this as an upgrade to Maestro's Massacre, or putting it in some Hello builds that they're creating from scratch. I've also seen this in some Commander Rigo Streetwise Mentor decks too. Bruvak, the Grandiloquent. This is the copy from the list that was there for Modern Horizons 2 and Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. It goes up 402 this week to 32.76. So this has been a fairly popular commander for a while, but now it can be pretty devastating along with Lord Xander in the format. Many players are adding Bruvak to those Lord Xander builds. Also, there is a series of Persistent Petitioner Secret Lair bonus cards going out, and they are pretty expensive right now in the secondary market, but they could have some players thinking about Bruvak again. There's another big reason, though, that this card is hot. And you guessed it is because of Commander Legends previews. Here's the first one. Tasha the Witch Queen. If you do have this in play, then milling is going to give you more access to your opponent's instants and sorceries. And beyond this, check out the front-facing commander for this last commander deck, Mind Flayers. This is what I was referring to earlier when I mentioned the horror creature type. Plus, I've already seen some players putting together deck lists around the front-facing commander here that include Bruvak. Pearl Medallion from Tempest. This is up 436 this week to 34.99. Last week we saw the Commander 2014 copy going up. This week it's this one. This is in a number of mono white commander decks, and it is getting more play now in Giada builds, and to a lesser degree it's in another new commander build, Benny Brack's Zoologist. Coercive Portal up 557 this week to $33. This is seeing more commander play now as an upgrade to Obscura Operation, and it's also in fresh builds around Tivit. It has been a little while, but Dockside Extortionist is back again at 561 this week to 74.99. This just got number crunched out of Commander Legends as well. Now this is a huge commander card and combo enabler for the format in many different builds, including Korvold. It did calm down a little bit recently because Gavin Verhey from Wizards did say that he is looking to find a place to reprint this, but we just don't know when that's going to happen or how it's going to happen at this point. And commander players need copies of this card. It's in a lot of new builds now, like Jinny Fey, Zeatora, Agnes, Lord Xander, Jolene from Riveteer's Rampage, Rocco, Jetmir. I've also seen many use this as an upgrade to Maestro's Massacre or put it in new builds around in Hallow. Remember, not only has Streets of New Capenna ramped up treasure token support, but as we saw earlier in the video, more support for that mechanic is coming in Commander Legends. Survival of the Fittest from Exodus up 606 this week to 274.35. This is found in a number of commander builds, including Korvold sometimes. It is expensive, but can be a good upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage. Also, it is seeing play in fresh builds around the Beamtown Bullies in the format, and I have seen this in some Rocco commander builds too. And finally for this section, Phyrexian Negator. The dual decks Phyrexia versus the Coalition copy is up 404 to 1901. That one only comes in foil. The Urza's Destiny copy goes up 861 to $23. Okay, notice that this is another horror, which is part of the reason it's moving up the way it is. This might be a good upgrade for Mind Flayers. Plus, this is getting a push from another Commander Legends preview card we saw earlier, John Arenicus Shattered One. On top of all that, this is currently seeing increased commander play too. It is a good upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage if the commander is the Beamtown Bullies, or of course good in fresh builds around that card as well. Negator is on the reserve list too, so it doesn't take too much to move the price. That takes us to the premium spotlight, and I say this every week, but there's tons of things happening on this side of the market. Premium cards jumping, dipping, all sorts of movement. We can't possibly cover it all, so I try to pick a few cards every week just to discuss. Now, I try to avoid cards that are targeted for a buyout, cards that feel like they're moving unnaturally, like maybe they're just a little dry for a week or two and then they're going to go back down. Cards that I choose are typically moving because they're seeing more play, maybe a preview card's pushing them, something like that. This time I picked 2 cards, and like the vintage section in this video, because these particular cards don't necessarily see a lot of sales, we do at times have to rely a little bit harder on asking prices. However, again, if the price on the screen doesn't quite match up with what I'm seeing when it comes to true sales, I will point that out. Phyrexian Negator back again. The Judge foil this time is up 1438 to 89.49, and the Urza's Destiny foil is up 1534 to 189.99. Okay, when it comes to true sales, the Judge foil price is pretty accurate. It is between a high-grade raw and high-grade graded copy of the card. The Urza's Destiny foil price actually looks a little bit low, believe it or not. I have seen high-grade raws sell for between $215 and $225, and I have not seen any high-grade graded copies sell recently, but it stands to reason they would be even higher. And the last card today is another Judge foil. It is Survival of the Fittest. It goes up 3308 to 1,849.97, or does it? I thought this was interesting. We talked about this card last week, but there was a high-grade sale this week. So I did see a high-grade raw copy sell for about $1,500. That's about $500 more than the sale we saw about a month ago. Next time a high-grade graded copy sells, it should pass this price point. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. If you stuck with me till the end, hey, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Until next time, though, hey, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.